GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show that's juicier than gossip at a high school reunion. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we're talking about investment insights and alpha from Eth CC, Europe's largest annual conference for Ethereum, which just happened this past week in Brussels. And the Milk Road team was there, led by Raul, the head of growth at Milk Road, and the guy behind our Twitter. Raul, welcome to the show. Start off by telling us, what is Eth CC, and give us a bit of background on this conference.
GMJ, glad to be on the show. As you said, ETHCC is the largest annual Ethereum event in Europe, and it's a very builder-focused conference that is usually hosted in Paris, France, since it's organized by the Ethereum France community. With the Olympics being in Paris during this time, they decided to host it in Brussels. The main thing about this event is that it had a whopping 6,450 people that attended officially. Now, that is a massive community. And from like what I've seen, the diversity is insane. Not only did you have people from all over the globe, all nationalities, there were also I didn't expect this, but there were more women than, I was expecting to see, which is a breath of fresh air and just great to see. So the diversity was amazing. My key takeaway from this is that, the Ethereum organization and the community is absolutely amazing. Just the fact that we had almost 6,500 people from all over the world contributing to this network in one way or another in just one city, and everyone just came together to figure out how to improve this network that we all love and use every day. I think it's very, very powerful. And it made me feel just like we have in Web2, you have the Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, which we know is mega powerful for Apple. It's where they launch all their products and give all their ecosystem updates. And that's kind of like how I felt about ETHCC being to crypto and Ethereum. In my mind, ETHCC is just a decentralized version of Apple's conference, and it's just a place where builders come together, to talk and how to improve and grow the network, which in my opinion was completely magical.
It's a great comparison to make, is that, and we talk about this all the time, is like, what is Ethereum? Well, Ethereum is really just an open source app store with crypto payment rails. And here we have a conference which, as you said, 6,500 people attended, all building on Ethereum, all building this network, all building the ecosystem. That's so powerful and so incredible. Raul, give us a breakdown. These 6,500 people, you would say majority builders, and can you give us a little bit of stats on how many developers Ethereum has globally in total?
Yeah, so Ethereum has almost 9,000 monthly active developers. Now, not everyone at the conference was a developer, but in my opinion, and how I felt the vibe, everyone was a builder, whether that's a founder, a marketer, a writer. They were all building something cool, whether small, whether large, doesn't really matter, but everyone was super focused on building something. To give you a ballpark, it was like maybe half were like developers, just heads down coding, building apps. And the rest were like more soft skills, like marketers and speakers and founders and writers and so on.
Before we jump in, we're going to talk about the sentiment that you gathered from this conference, what that means in your mind for Ethereum prices and for the market as a whole. We're going to talk about some builder stats. We're going to talk about are on-chain apps really here? What did you see from on-chain apps? Let's start by, though, what was your favorite thing that you did at this conference?
My favorite thing that I did was buying a coffee for 2 USDC using my Coinbase wallet and using USDC on Base. That was a cool experience.
Okay, man, that is amazing that we're doing that is happening. Let's talk a little bit about the vibes and the sentiment. What did you find? How many people did you talk to over? It was 4 days, was it? And what sort of sentiment did you pick up from them?
Yeah, it was 4 days from Monday till Thursday, and I've talked to hundreds of people. Like my Telegram right now is swamped. I just got to get back to everyone. This weekend was just like recovery. I've slept 24 hours in the last 2 days just to recover. So yeah, it's been crazy. So after speaking to hundreds of people, surprisingly, the sentiment was very bearish when you talk about prices. Now, we love to talk about this from an investor's perspective. And almost everyone I've met at ETC was more bearish than I expected on prices alone. So for example, most people that I talk to don't expect Bitcoin to surpass 100K by end of 2025. And when it comes to ETH, almost nobody expects Ethereum to reach 5,000 or above by the end of this cycle, which in my mind, I'm more bullish. It's been a bit surprising to hear these takes. But again, going back to the context, this was a very builder focused conference. So It was a lot of like builders that, one, they're probably very like crypto rich, so they don't really care about prices. They have, enough. Plus, because they've been in this space for so long, they're kind of like thinking ahead. So like they're always thinking long term. And if you do that, like that in 5 years, prices will be much higher than they are today. So there's no point in even like caring about the prices. And the whole sentiment was just like builder, builder, builder focus. So everyone was just focused on how to network, what apps to build next, what everyone is working on, and everyone was just like heads down, building and thinking for the long term. And that was pretty awesome to see. It's a bit of a breath of fresh air from what you see on Twitter. Everyone talking about these meme coins, celeb coins, prices, whatever. Here it was just like true builders that are like behind the tech, and it's just the real people building behind it.
It is amazing because I'm assuming everybody listening to this show invests in Ethereum. I think, and if you're not, I would say you might be slightly crazy. So it's amazing to hear, though, that at one of Ethereum's largest annual conferences, the biggest one in Europe, most of the people there are not talking about prices. That's what you want. If most of the people there were talking about prices, they'd kind of be full of shit, right? You'd have a bunch of people that aren't, they're just kind of, they're pumping bags, they're just excited. But instead, what you have is you have a bunch of people that don't care about prices. They're not there for that. They're building and they're focused on the long term, and they're doing it for the right reasons, not to get the Ethereum price to the moon, not to get their own project price to the moon, but just to build a app that has real product market fit, that really impacts the world, and that gets crypto out to the masses. So it's kind of interesting. Bearish on prices is what I'm hearing, but bullish on the future of Ethereum and the future of on-chain and the future of crypto.
Bearish on the prices, bullish on the tech.
Let's just take a step back and look at some global builder stats, though, just to give us an idea of like, where are we from a builder perspective? We don't look a lot of that. We look a lot of stats of price stats, but give us an idea of where we're at from a builder perspective right now.
We can see here from A16Z, this is a report that it did recently. And if we look at the number of contract deployers, which is how many developers are writing code on the public blockchain, we can see that in the last 3 months, we are at insane highs, and it's only growing since 2020. So again, like this kind of like mirrors the sentiment that I got from ETHCC. Is like, okay, if you look on chain, people are actually shipping. And then again, this is, in my opinion, the most important stat to look at, which is verified smart contracts. And this is the number of new crypto applications that are being launched, again, at 3-month highs, which we haven't seen, ever before. So definitely a wave of builders, building mode, and just everyone focused on building.
Yeah, when we look at this verified smart contract chart, it takes you back to 2016 when basically there was 0 verified smart contracts being launched, and it stays pretty level until it was like 2021 when it really started to go up, and then we hit an all-time high in August 2023 at 46,000 verified smart contracts launched in that month, and then since then, boom, the past 3 months we've been above 50K 3 months in a row, hitting 60, almost 67K in April. So you could see the building is not just talk that's happening. There is real verified smart contracts that are being launched every month right now, which means new apps are here and they are being launched to the public. That's super exciting to see. Okay, let's go into, so the builders are here, great, and they're really building, which is what we want to see. But are the apps here? Are there any consumer apps that are actually ready for mass adoption? What was the takeaway on that side, Raul?
Yeah, so everyone likes to refer to these apps like as mass consumer on-chain apps. And before I give my answer, I just want to give you some context about what that really means. So these are better apps that have better UX than what we currently have, and that attract users without needing an incentive like a token or a points program. And the closest we have to that right now is Polymarket, right? We don't really have any other like mass consumer on-chain apps other than Polymarket. So the short answer to your question is no, the apps are not really here. And the reason I'm saying that is because I haven't seen any major, breaking apps launching at ETHCC. But the way I saw it is kind of like different. So I think what's key here is that we're kind of like building the on-chain economy still. And as I said before, we're in a big builder wave that's happening right now. We have hundreds and thousands of on-chain apps launching every day and every month. And the most important thing that I got from ETC is that like while we're launching all of those apps, everyone is kind of like obsessed with the UX. So here's kind of like how I think about it now that I've just had a few days to think about this. So ever since the ICO bubble, maybe like last cycle to 2020, kind of everyone in the community has been focusing on building the infrastructure. So we were focused on improving Ethereum. That means like launching L2s. You had the merge. We had like EIP 4844 and other EIPs. There was a lot of talk about blob space and whatever. Then you had like a bunch of Ethereum killers launching like L1s. Like there were a million, launching like Solana, Avalanche, and other, just like, trying to fix scalability. And then there was a trend with data availability solutions like Celestia, tried to lower gas fees. And there was all of this talk about infrastructure. Now, the feeling at ETHCC is that now that's behind us. We don't need more infra. Nobody talks about infra anymore. Now, everyone is obsessed with building apps that have good UX. Again, while there were no apps that like I used or like I saw at ETHCC, every startup, I talked to probably like 30 or maybe 50 startups. Everyone was just talking about like smart wallets, which is a way to set up your wallet without thinking about a seed phrase, account abstraction, which is the tag that enables on-chain actions that don't require gas and signing transactions. You had, ZK proofs, let one party prove a statement that it's true without revealing any details, and things like intent, which is basically a specific goal of a user that he wants to accomplish on chain. They just put it out there, and then someone goes and solves it, and the user basically gets the best price and outcome without doing basically anything. And I'm oversimplifying all of these features, but the point is that they're all features that abstract away the clunky tech in crypto that we're all used to, like signing transactions, paying gas, whatever. It's hiding all of that away from the users. And again, everyone I've talked to is like very, very focused on building, these features and having the best and smoothest UX possible.
Okay, so if I could summarize, the apps aren't here yet, although I think there's a few that you're going to tell us about in just a
Yeah,
minute, but
yeah.
they're not really here yet, but everyone's focused on building them. I guess, like, are you optimistic? You were just there, you were on the ground, you're around, hundreds of projects that are building for, mass consumer adoption. Are you optimistic that they're capable of that and that they're heading in that direction? Or is it just a lot of talk? Because it's great for everyone to say, yeah, we need better UX. Like, of course we need better UX.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic just because he was like the main focus. Like this is the main takeaway that I got from the event. Like no one thinks about like boring stuff like I'm gonna launch another L2 to solve all of your problems. There was none of that. There was like, I'm gonna give you an app that solves this issue for you that you're gonna use every day with no incentives or whatever. You're just gonna use it because this is better than the Web2 alternatives. So I'm very optimistic.
Tell us about a few of the favorite experiences, on-chain experiences that you had while you were there.
On-chain UX and whatnot. I think Coinbase is still leading the way here, and it's not even close. I talked about Polymarket before, and that's kind of like great app, but still it's Coinbase that, in my opinion, is leading the way. And the coolest experience, as I said before, was paying for coffee in a few seconds using my Coinbase wallet. Now, this took me a few seconds because I already had USDC on base on my Coinbase wallet. But if I didn't have that, then you could easily install Coinbase's smart wallet, which is another feature. And actually, the lead engineer at Coinbase Wallet, his name is Chintan Turakia. I am hoping I'm not butchering his name. But he had a very cool talk presenting how this works. And just to summarize, you basically set up a wallet. You don't need an extension. You don't need an app. You don't need to store your seed phrase. You set it up with your Face ID, and your keys are stored on your phone, and you can just go interact with anything that you want on chain. Now, again, for this to work, like to pay for coffee, you would still need that 2 USDC. So you would need to load that wallet, but you can do it with Apple Pay and stuff, which is super easy. But that is the main application that I've seen use, like the UX features that I was talking about. This particular one was using account abstraction to provide the best experience possible.
Everyone's talking about stablecoins. We've talked about it a ton on the show. It is clearly the main breakaway use case that we have in crypto that has real product market fit. I don't think there's any debate that stablecoins are the future. My one question about this, though, is okay, great. I have Coinbase Wallet. I have USDC on base. I'm sure a lot of our listeners do as well, or maybe a lot of our listeners don't, but I'm sure our listeners know how they can set that up. But doesn't mean I can go to my local coffee shop and they accept crypto. How is that going to roll out? What was the POS system that was really allowing? I mean, I'm sure. Actually, let me ask, who are you buying coffee from? Was this like a Coinbase coffee shop that they just set up for the weekend, or were you actually going to a coffee shop in Brussels?
This was a base coffee shop. It was base coffee, whatever. And the way it works from the POS perspective is they partnered with an on-chain payment solution called Slice. And basically, when you do your transaction, you go through Slice, and they have like an iPad at the counter, and they see your transaction coming through like immediately. They confirm it, and then they give you a coffee. So that's pretty fast.
Okay, so the POS side of this is coming along because obviously it's not enough to just have everybody have a wallet. We also need the coffee shops, and not just coffee shops. Any store that you want to go into and spend money on would ideally one day accept USDC or some form of stablecoin. So it's great to see that happening as well. If anybody listening to this is a merchant, an in-person merchant, make sure you go check out Slice if you want to start to accept crypto at your coffee shop. Any other on-chain apps that stood out to you?
Yeah, so I had a pretty funny interaction with a team called Sablier. They had a booth, and I went up to speak with them and found out they were Romanian. So I was like, "Oh, nice! I'm Romanian too. Let's talk about this." And so I was like kind of biased towards this project, and I liked it. Basically, what they do is they provide a way for token distribution. So, like if you have a token as a DAO or another project, you can basically distribute your token to like pay other like third parties that you work with or employees that the DAO might have, and so on. And I was like, cool. And then a few hours later, a client that we work with, who's a DAO as well, they just reached out and they were like, is it okay that if we switch from this payment service that we use to Sablier? I was like, Sablier? Are these the guys that you're talking about? And I sent them the picture. They're like, yes, they offer so much better UX. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. And so like, again, this comes back to the fact that like on site, everyone was like, okay, how do we build the best UX? These guys have figured something out that one of their features, they have many features, but one of the features that our client was looking to use, that was the best feature on the market. So that's why they chose Sablier to pay us, basically. And that was a very fun interaction, and I loved it.
Okay, great to see. So, maybe the mass consumer on-chain apps aren't here yet, but I'm kind of feeling like they are here. They just maybe don't have the mass adoption, or they're just new to market. Because as we said, we've seen all-time highs in verified smart contracts launched in the last 3 months. So possible that they're here. They just don't quite have mass adoption yet. When you look at the Ethereum conference, one thing that's really nice to compare is the Ethereum conference to the Solana conference. If you were to compare those two, what would you say?
Yeah, so I haven't been to a Solana conference recently, but I do know that they have a lot of apps launching, a lot more apps than Ethereum. I agree with you. Like we don't have the killer app that brings us mass adoption, but we do have builders working on this. However, this is why I'm more bullish on Solana. When you go to a Solana conference, there's a lot of apps launching. There's like demos and people can use them and so on. I kind of like fully agree with what Merge is saying here. He's the CEO of Helios. And he says that the biggest difference between Ethereum and Solana conferences is that 80% of events on Ethereum are about infrastructure. Now, I disagree. This time it was different. It was not that much about infra versus almost all events on Solana are about apps. And that's kind of like true. Okay, everyone's just like building apps. So yeah, that makes me more bullish on Solana. But if you're listening, the point I think everyone needs to like walk away with from this podcast is that as an investor, it's not really relevant to like find the next big app or whatever, because you don't need to pick and invest in one particular app. Instead, I think to capitalize properly on the growth of crypto, I just think you need to invest in the underlying infrastructure and the blockchains upon which the apps are being built. The way I see it right now, Ethereum and Solana are the place where apps are being built, and that's kind of like the two ecosystem that I think will benefit the most long term. And if you're an investor and all you care about like how you capitalize on this, in my opinion, I think just buying these two assets, ETH and Sol, is like investing. It's close to like investing in the internet in the early 2000s. It's like you don't have to catch the Amazon, you just have to have a stake in the internet, because then Amazon will bring so much value to the whole infrastructure that you as an investor will benefit. So that's my take.
The biggest bullish number that I keep looking at is that Solana accounts for about 3, maybe 4%. I haven't looked at it in the past few days. 3-4% of total crypto market cap, and I'm pretty bullish that Solana is going to end up capturing more than 3 or 4% of the total crypto market cap. And that's it. That's all you need to know. If you're bullish on that, then Solana's a great investment because you believe that they are the future of on-chain activity, and they're still quite small in comparison to the total crypto market cap. Ethereum, they have a much bigger percentage of the total crypto market cap, but I believe that total crypto market cap is going to grow, which we've talked about lots in the show, likely going to hit 10 trillion by the end of this cycle, by the end of 2025. And if that's the case, then Ethereum feels like a pretty great investment too. Raul, before we wrap up here, you also attended Vitalik's Ethereum talk. Obviously, everybody talks about Vitalik. Would love to just get some quick takeaways from that. Don't feel like you need to dive too deep. I know Vitalik can be quite in the weeds and technical. But what was your takeaway from that talk?
Yeah, so just for context, when Vitalik comes to speak at these conferences, he's basically giving his opinion on what needs to be built, and then everyone in the audience just goes ahead and builds that stuff. So that's what he did here. He came in and he was like, okay, guys, we need to focus on how can we prevent a 51% takeover of the chain. That's when entities have more than 51% of all the Ethereum in circulation. And then because they do that, they can, approve or disapprove transactions at their own will. And more importantly, if that kind of a 51% attack happens, how can we recover the chain? And so that was like a very technical part that I don't want to get into. But the main idea of his talk was, how can we decentralize the Ethereum network even more? And he was talking about like, okay, how can we help people run their own validator and other things that can make Ethereum more decentralized, so that people don't only stake their ETH with like Lido, Coinbase, and Kraken? Because he was kind of like giving this analogy. It's like, what if Lido, Coinbase, and Kraken partner? They have like over 50% of the nodes because they have so much ETH that they're staking on behalf of their customers. What happens then? Just giving some examples and talking about how we can prevent this, and in case an attack happens, how we can recover the chain. Again, very technical, but again, the audience was very like, a lot of developers, a lot of builders that know this stuff, so it didn't surprise me. But for me, like the Vitalik talk was super bullish. For one, I just love the guy. I think he's a genius, and I think like everyone in there was like, again, just going there for guidance, like on what to build next. And since I trust Vitalik so much, I know that the devs in the audience are just gonna go and execute now. And I have the confidence that they have the ability to pull this off. So
Raul, thanks so much for joining us today. It sounds like your experience at ETHCC was awesome, and it sounds like ETH is on the right path. A lot of bullish vibes coming out of all this building that is happening. I think the thing that most of our listeners and most of the world, quite frankly, isn't really aware of is just how much building is happening behind the scenes on chain. When you have, as you said at the beginning of the show, over 8,000 monthly active developers that are building in an ecosystem right now that is still very small compared to many Web 2 ecosystems, but the developers are there at that scale. I think we can be confident that like the apps are coming, and when the apps are here, then the people come, and when the people are here, then number go up, and that feels good for all of us. Raul, thanks so much again for joining us today.
thank you for hosting me.
Thanks for listening in, everybody. Have a wicked awesome day.
Thank you for listening to Milk Road Radio, the easiest path to get smarter about crypto. If you like this episode, share it and hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, then we'll leave a link to Milk Road Pro as well, your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto is risky, so you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and we'll see you in the next one.